Hey, what's up, everyone? How you guys doing? We're doing the Fatality Academy today, where we're going to be talking about mouse sensitivity in games. Basically, what sensitivity is best used for different type of first-person shooter games. Play some games like Valorant, or you play games like Apex Legends, or you play games like Quake, or whatever you play. Each game is going to have a certain kind of like call to action, where in the sense like the game's going to be asking you, hey, most of the fights are long range, most of the fights are close range, most of the fights require really good movement in the game. So we're going to be talking about that today in this Fatality Academy session. Personally, for me, I've used a lot of different mouse sensitivities for a long time. Going from Quake, I used kind of like mostly, I would say it's more of a medium sensitivity. When I first played the game, I played like a kind of a high sensitivity, which I would consider to be high. The reason why in Quake I'd use a high sensitivity was because like I felt like I was fighting a lot of people. I was playing a lot of free for all, so there's like enemies coming from everywhere. And yeah, I went to play like 1v1 deathmatch. I realized that being more precise was more important, and then also I realized I don't need to turn around as fast anymore because I'm not having to adjust by killing this guy and killing the next guy. So I would spend a lot of time like on aim maps, practicing my aim, practicing on how to be more consistent, and I would keep data. So I would usually have, I actually still have a book where I keep some like data. I would have like kind of a notepad, and here you can kind of see like different sensitivities I'm using, and I would keep track of how consistent I was with certain weapons. When you're trying to work on being more consistent, I would basically do like an hour training session where I would do like an hour aim map, and I would like, well, how much damage did I do in that hour? How accurate was I in that 1 hour time span using that one sensitivity? In Quake, I would use 3.25 for my rocket launcher, and like no one really ever beat me one like heads up with a rocket launcher. Like, you get rocket launcher, I get rocket launcher, and we'll just fight forever, right? Of course I would die sometimes, whatever deal is, but you know, over like an hour stretch, I mean, I am like 30 or 40 or 50 kills ahead of the other guy. Now when you get to like a hit scan weapon like a lightning gun, I used sensitivity 2. And the reason why I used 2 is because most of the fights I have with lightning gun were like medium range. They were always medium. I never really liked shooting the lightning gun close range because my sensitivity was too low to really take advantage of like a really close, like just like mowing a guy down, like close range where you're like hitting like 100% of your shots. So anyways, so that was kind of the reasoning behind using different sensitivities and keeping data. I would experiment all the time with these kind of things and try to find out which one was the most successful and which one paid the best dividend. So whenever I walked into a tournament or into a match, I'd always like, wow, okay, like I know I'm already gonna shoot the best I'm gonna shoot with the sensitivities I have, because I've already done all the data research beforehand to know that, okay, my sensitivity at 2 is gonna do this much damage, and it's gonna be really hard for this guy to out aim me. You know, with all the training, all the practice, you just kind of get used to using a certain sensitivity, and it works in practice, so it should work in the tournament. And if you practice enough, like people were saying, like I have a really hard time like playing against people that have like big names, or I get nervous and so forth. If you do the right kind of practicing and so forth on your aim and being consistent, you'll never have like these like massive blow-ups. I think with a higher sensitivity, if you get nervous, you get more shaky. You'll be more inclined to miss shots. But if you practice enough and you get dialed in and you're super confident and you've prepared for the moment, and you're able to execute, you should be able to get it. My whole idea about talking about sensitivity today in the Fatality Academy, like what is your sensitivity, is to talk about what sensitivity you're using in the games and making sure you're using the right ones. For you guys in chat, I would love to hear what your sensitivities are, what DPI you're using. Feel free to post it in chat and let me know what your DPI is and what game you're playing and what your sensitivity is. I do have Mimes Jump here, who's wanted to talk about his sensitivity and so forth, and we're going to kind of talk about you know, his questions he has. The ultimate goal here is to talk about what your sensitivity is and how can it fit your play style. If you wanted to be aggressive, like really close range, and you want to fight only close range battles, a higher sensitivity is going to be better for you. But your weakness is going to be those long range fights. You're trying to protect yourself in every situation. Like, you know, sometimes the fights are going to be long range. Sarge TV, my sensitivity, I just copy yours and hope for the best. Well, you're not going bad there. That's a pretty good way to start, Sarge. You're saying when I hear people asking for other play sensitivity, it makes me giggle. You say sense DPI questions are pointless. The only sensible question about question would be CM360, which is also not that accurate because you can use mouse with which weighs 110 grams or goes super light. Okay, plus every mouse pad has different friction when you play on quick. Okay, yeah. So the thing is, the surface does play a factor in it. I actually almost always use cloth mouse pads. The reason why I like cloth is because I feel like it's a little smoother, a little more consistent. I didn't really like the really fast surfaces in general. Definitely not hard surfaces because I thought I would always be prone to injury if I used a hard surface for too long. The biggest thing for me was like I want to play my 8-12 hours and not have pain in my wrist. So that's kind of how I looked at it. Kind of interesting, like where sometimes I'm like, man, like if I can use a lower sensitivity and still be fast, that means I could be even more accurate, right? That's kind of how I look at it, in the sense like, wow, if I can get there faster, then I can use even lower sensitivity to be even more accurate. I just like cloth mouse pads. That's what I've always used. That's what I won all my tournaments with. I'm kind of the guy that says like, if it's not broken, don't fix it. In Quake, I was like, man, I'd really like to play with my the high sensitivity and just run around and just wreck people. But in reality, it's like that wouldn't win these battles. Like I would lose these shaft battles. I would miss that rail shot maybe. The sensitivities I went with were like foolproof in the sense like they almost always hit, or like, my accuracy with my railgun, in training, it would be like 40 to 100% sometimes. If I only shot 14 shots all game, when I was playing my best, I was like 50 to 80% with my railgun, like in training. In tournaments, I think it usually hit around like 40 to 60%. Just depends on who I was playing against. Sometimes it'd be upper 70s, wherever deal is. Sometimes you just can't miss. And when you're hitting 70%, it feels like you're hitting every shot. And then extreme FPS, you're using 1600 DPI at 0.6. That's that's 2.4. That's a pretty low sensitivity. I would say you probably are very accurate. And then when people get close, it might be a little tough. You might be moving the mouse a lot. You need a really big mouse pad probably. Rocket launcher and rail are my main best. I'm not good at tracking. That's what I was saying. Like you hit my rocket launcher sensitivity almost on the number at 1.5. I'm actually at 1.625 at 800 DPI probably. That's a super good sensitivity for rocket launcher. The railgun, that's a pretty. I would say for me that was a higher sensitivity for rocket launcher. But I imagine you have pretty good flick shots and so forth. Whatever you get used to and you ingrain it into your brain, that's what it is, right? I think if you lowered your sensitivity from 1.5 800 DPI to like say 1 sensitivity 1 800 DPI, your lightning gun might be like really sick. But yeah, extreme FPS, you have a 0.6 at 1600 DPI in Apex. That's a 2.4 at 400 DPI. So yeah, that's definitely in the lower spectrum. I think that sensitivity is more commonly used probably in Counter-Strike. And I feel like Apex is not really like it has some Counter-Strike features, but in full scope of the thing, there's moments where you got to be able to move it fast. I think always the higher sensitivity is a more fun sensitivity. Like it's like I have more fun playing with a higher sensitivity. But the thing is like the results and sometimes you pop off and sometimes you don't. And I don't like ever not doing anything. I'm always thinking like I need to get my shots in. I need to hit a certain amount of shots every time I do it, and then I'll be happy. X Pulga 3200 DPI at 0.625 sensitivity. What game are you playing with that sensitivity? Just out of curiosity. Okay, so you're using 5 sensitivity in Quake Live. Like that's like the standard stationary sensitivity in Quake. I used 4.7 when I first started playing Quake. So you're just, 0.3 above mine. And I would consider 5 to be really high sensitivity. I would say it's great for, doing rocket launcher jumps, like, jumping around with the rocket launcher and flicking, shots everywhere kind of thing. I think it's a great sensitivity just starting out. Because I've seen people like have 10 sensitivity or 20 sensitivity. Like, dude, what are you doing? Like, and that's how I used to be when I was younger. I think I used like 12 or 15 in Quake, or like it was like ridiculous. And I was like, I should really try to use my arm more and use lower. So eventually I went super low and start really using my my full arm to make moves. But yeah, it's that's a high sensitivity, and It's a fun sensitivity. I think it's something that you probably should try to come down on eventually. Point 4 would be kind of a good starting point. I think you might like it a little bit more. When you're playing a game and you know the best gun in the game is X, you should try to find the best sensitivity for that gun. So that's something you should think about when you're playing these games. Like, what is the best gun in the game, and then how can you have the best sensitivity for that gun in the game? Fatality, what do you miss more, Quake or Unreal? I liked Unreal Tournament 2003 a lot. I love the flak cannon in that game. In 2K4, they nerfed it and made it a lot slower shooting, which I really hated. I think they really lost something special there. Quake obviously it's the game. I mean, there's so many different ways to play Quake too, versus Unreal. So Quake would be the more exciting thing for me. But both of them are good games. Both of them are fun to play at any time. Nick says, I have always just used the default DPI that computers and mice usually have. Yeah, if you buy a 400 DPI mouse back in the day, that's what you're stuck with, right? I mean, I'm actually using a 400 DPI mouse right now. So I'm using a remake of the IntelliMouse 3.0. This is the mouse I won a lot of tournaments with. This is the remake one. I actually have the $1 million mouse. One second. So this is actually the mouse I won the world tour with. I've been working on trying to get it framed and so forth, but this is the OG IntelliMouse 3.0 that I used to win the world tour in 2005. Did you have some questions, Mimes?
Oh yeah. So one thing I kind of struggle with is being consistent. Like, what kind of steps do you take?
So I used to do a lot of AMAP, right? But what I would say about being consistent is that you're doing the same thing over and over again. I'm crazy, so like I think of a lot of different things. So like I think of being consistent is like make sure I'm not shaking, make sure I'm not cold. I cross my ankles when I play games. So I don't want to be bouncing my knee if I get nervous. I always wear a long sleeve, mostly always when I play in tournaments because I want to stay warm inside. I set my wrist on the mouse pad to my forearm, almost like to like make an inch from my bone here. Like that's kind of like my stationary setup. So like once I'm there, if I want to have a lower sensitivity, I'll move my hand forward a bit more of my forearm on the mouse pad. When I'm trying to lower my sensitivity but not changing the sensitivity in the game, I will then move my hand forward to a bit more of the mouse pad on my forearm, and it basically will make my hand move slower. When the fights get really close and crazy, I'll literally almost like lift my wrist off the mouse pad, lift it up, and then just like flying around to fight people like really close range. Whenever I played in tournaments, for my world championships and so forth, I never sat in a rocking chair or like a moving swivel chair or anything. I would go to the tournaments and measure how tall the table was, and then I would have the exact same table at my house. And then I would look, how tall is the banquet chair? Okay, the banquet chair sits up this high. I want to have the exact same chair height at home. These were like the things I was thinking of, like to create consistency and like trying to always be one step ahead. So these are the kind of things I would be thinking about and trying to make sure that I was always ready for the situation. If I was trying to like literally like piece out everything I could possibly do to be the best in the world, you got to take everything you can possibly get in equipment. You got to get the best monitor, you got to get the best mouse, got the best keyboard, you got to get the best setup so you can train as much as possible. You should be thinking about every time you can gain 1%, always be taking it. If you can gain 1% by doing this, 1% by doing that, 1%, just keep adding the ones, and eventually you get 10% increase in your performance. If that 10% thing ever hits in the game when you're playing the game, it's the difference of taking last or first. Sometimes it could be the difference between third and first. It could be the difference between fifth and first. Whenever you get the opportunity to take advantage of those small little things that are available to you, you got to take it. That was always my mindset. I was always trying to think of how can I be the best and how can I get that 1%. The first thing I made was a large gaming mouse pad. That was the first thing I did. I was like, wow, well, if I can keep my mouse on the mouse pad longer and keep shooting instead of picking it up and then reshooting, then picking it up and reshooting it, I do more damage. It's like common sense. That's literally what I was doing when I created the first large gaming mouse pad. What headset do you find has the best, most accurate sound imaging for pinpointing sounds? I'm using my own Fatality headphones that I made 6 years ago. I'm still using them. I use these because they're super lightweight and they don't they're just really comfortable. I feel for most time it's pretty good, but the problem with sound, over the last, probably 8 years or more, I feel like the sound's gotten worse in games. They're not as good as they used to be. I remember Unreal Tournament in 2003 had amazing sound. Then they changed the DLL file to support Sound Blaster sound cards. Then I called up and complained to Epic, and I was like, hey, there's something wrong with your sound files. And then it was just a wild thing. And then I actually started talking to Creative Labs about sound. A year later, they're like, oh, we want to sponsor you. And then they're like, well, you understand sound and you understand why it's important. And then so they offered me a $200,000 contract to be sponsored by him. And then I told them no. I told him, I was like, I'm going to make my own headphones. I'm going to make my own Fatality, products. And I was going to do my own thing. A month later, they're like, okay, we'll do what you want to do. We'll make Fatality sound card, Fatality headphone, and we'll give you a royalty on all sales worldwide. And I was like, okay, we'll do that. And that was a multi-million-dollar deal, and it turned out to be a pretty good choice turning on that $200,000. I'll tell you that. But anyways, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this session of Fatality Academy. My goal is to keep trying to educate gamers and educate people how to play to their full potential and play like the best. Hope you guys enjoyed this short, hour and 20 minutes or so of the Fatality Academy. Hope you guys enjoyed this session of Fatality Academy. And as always, guys, you got to practice. You got to practice, practice, practice. That's the only way, guys. That's the only way. And now it's time for you to go practice. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Go work on your aim, and we'll see you guys all next time, okay? Good night.